This is the Medieval Content Channel. There's really only so much time on this world to be awake, alive, and explore, think, experience, and decide how you want to live. Some of us stumble through life, never quite stopping to breathe, nor realize that the things you've always wanted to do are never years away, but just a step and always there for you. One of those things for me was acting, as well as a safe, tight group of friends. You could say I've modeled my life goals after that of my hero, Buffy the Vampire Slayer. She had a wonderful group of friends, a calling, or passion if you will, also a home and a few other things I've yet to obtain, but let's discuss the first two, as there are no vampires around to ruin that. Not yet, at least. For Buffy, she wouldn't have had any of that without being the Slayer, much to her occasional detriment, but for many years, though I would certainly understand and oftentimes stress the importance of the concept of improv and living history, reenactment and historical accuracy, I would always have considered myself a fighter and not a reenactor. That has since changed, but allow me to make a case for stage combat. This video is showcasing footage taken from 2016 to 2017, doing what I had titled Medieval Combat for this channel with those wonderful friends. One of my passions has always been to be involved in film, industry or otherwise. To have 20 more or less dedicated friends to help work on projects like these is honestly humbling. Barring the campy nature of those videos and the clearly anachronistic approach we took to them and take to the festival we performed for, getting into stage combat and historical reenactment gave my life more focus, perhaps purpose, and certainly at times saved it. The War Queen and I will discuss through a string of Talk Past podcast episodes on how to get into reenactment and some guides along the way, so I won't delve too deep down that path in this video essay. However, I will state that if you're interested, then do it. If you have a passion for anything, do it. You will regret it when that one life is near completion and you wish you had. For me, it all began watching these incredible individuals work to put together a show for a Harry Potter convention involving stage combat, and then casually being asked if I'd like to join that as well as the festival they perform for. So, here we are. One of those greatest things of getting involved in reenactment and stage combat is all the character traits you'll pick up along the way, the lessons you learn in reaching the person you're bound to become. First and foremost, there's the need to learn and understand footwork, which every single year has been the bane of my existence, standing in a bleak field under the harsh light of day, performing repetitive drills such as step drag, drag step, extended lunge, recover, cover, rabble dabble, bibbidi bop. For our group, this can sometimes be a negative, but the guiding hand is often far too out of reach when doing these drills and overall training sessions, especially with weapons, which will often leave newcomers feeling left out or left behind and incapable of catching up because they simply won't receive the training they deserve. But I've noticed that's often due to the severe time crunch of doing a festival or probably any show. This is why those drills are done ad nauseum, because there's only so much time we have to prepare ourselves before you're launched onto the festival site and forced to learn on the job. So, these first steps and instructions will quite literally teach you discipline. Listen, repeat after me, learn, grow. You're gonna hate this, just as I did, but over time, during training, and especially after, when time is more freely available, you'll discover that footwork is the single most important foundation for all of stage combat, historical or otherwise. It begins at your toes and works its way up, and only when your body is disciplined and has allowed those movements to become second nature, you begin to understand the paths it opens for you, the world you just stepped through. The next thing to note is the importance of safety, which is to say stepping up to wield a weapon. Our group uses real weapons, not foam, though, safer alternatives to wood and steel, you should still adhere to these lessons. Holding a weapon, especially a real sword, is what helps me to connect to the past, to understand how it might have felt in the medieval period and the responsibility of wielding it correctly. As not to say that using a real weapon is historically accurate or the only means to connect with what you're doing, as all stage combat from reenactment festivals to living history to film is completely anachronistic. There is also the complete other side, the acting and improv, sewing, cooking, so many other things to connect us to the past. It's just that the sword is what does that for me. Our group begins sword combat learning with drills, and under the veil of the blistering heat, the theatrical 1 through 8s. Just one of many forms of wielding the sword. It too is the foundation for a sword, fists, and any weapon. And as you practice again and again, safely and eventually correctly, with body isolations and intent, with passion and desire for growth, it becomes to feel more like a yoga. Something that certainly puts me in a deep trance of relaxation, even satisfaction. It's one of the most rewarding things to learn. Footwork and these sword structures are the very foundation for all of it. So, now that you've started on this path and learned the basics, it's time to start choreography. Some individuals are told what to do and how to fight, and personally I believe that's a shame. It's a great way for a new person to learn technique, but I've always been taught to choreograph on our own, to truly see how creative you can be, how you can think on your feet, and especially work with your partners. Every means of putting on a show, however, is different and perhaps more or less correct if everyone comes out safe, happy, and satisfied with the final performance. In my experience, it's been a detriment to the show and the growth as a performer in stage combat to simply be told to what to do. Which brings me to the next thing to note. As wonderful as a thing to learn and grow within, there is one thing to heed going into stage combat especially, but also reenactment in general. Though that, of course, is depending on the group that you are in, but there is a lot of toxic masculinity and elitism. For myself, I've experienced both, but mostly the second. This is the problem within the community that can put people off from getting involved. If you want others to engage with you, you shouldn't tear new people down, judge them, and hold them back because of your personal biases. The man behind the crowd will always be viewed as immature. The king should be invisible. If you have a feeling that anyone is treating you less than you deserve, enforcing gross standards, or hurting you in any way physically or mentally, emotionally, just leave. Find another group, because there are an incredible amount of wonderful people in reenactment who aren't like that. And even so, the ones I've experienced were few and far between, and oftentimes that toxicity is what gets them kicked out of the show. But that's not always the case. So if you experience any of these pitiful people, find another group that will treat you better. These people think they're the best in the world at what they do, but really you're not. And no one likes you, no one wants to be around you, and no one thinks you're the authority on anything you claim to be. We are always learning, and no one is the master at sword combat. No one is an expert at stage combat or reenactment. We are perpetual students in a master class of history that no one could possibly absorb as completely as your ego. Fortunately, the group I am in is not like this. We have weeded out those people, for the most part, but though that is a negative aspect of this community, don't let the insecurities of others keep you from doing what you love. No one expects you to be perfect in reenactment, and especially not in stage combat. Just be yourself. So, that's the final message I wanted to say. Let me know if you'd like to hear more, and perhaps the War Queen and I will delve deeper into it on the Talk Past podcast. But stage combat and reenactment, despite being a place where you play another person, historical or otherwise, is strangely where you'll actually end up finding yourself and growing into the person you're going to become. It's the best place to play, not just with swords, but with friends and that youth in your heart. Historical or not, it's where your history is made from memories and tears that'll stain this earth for eternity. So don't be afraid to join us and swing some swords, sew that garb, or whatever you desire to do in the world of reenactment. It's never too late to be yourself.